A man boards a plane, demands $200,000, jumps out with a parachute, and vanishes forever. 50 years later, no one knows what happened to him. This is the incredible story of D.B. Cooper? Or was it all an elaborate hoax? On November the 24th, 1971, just one day before Thanksgiving, a man boarded a flight from Portland, Oregon to Seattle. He'd bought his ticket under the name Don Cooper, although the media would later transform this into D.B. Cooper, which is how we know him today. Cooper settled into his seat on Northwest Orient Airlines Flight 305. The man appeared to be in his mid-40s, well-dressed in a dark suit, a crisp white shirt, and a black tie. He wore mirrored dark glasses that only added to his mystery. When the plane had reached about 10,000 feet, Cooper took a deep breath and handed a note to a passing flight attendant. "Miss, I want to talk to you for a minute," he said. His voice was calm, his demeanor polite, but when the attendant turned the note over, she saw these words scrawled inside. "I have a bomb in my briefcase. I want $200,000 in cash, or I will blow up this plane." The flight attendant immediately went to find the pilot. By this point, other flight attendants were serving coffee and snacks to the passengers, none of whom had any idea of the danger they were in. When the pilot returned from checking the cabin, he knew exactly what to do. The safety of his passengers was more important than anything else. So he immediately contacted air traffic control to inform them that they had a hijacking in progress. The pilot put out a mayday call over the radio. "We have a hijacker. He says he has a bomb." As the drama unfolded, hundreds of police officers gathered outside the airport in Seattle. But what was the hijacker's endgame? What did he plan to do once he reached Mexico? None of the officers had any answers. They could only wait and hope for the best. It didn't take long for the anxious passengers to be released. After all, the hijacker had no interest in hurting them. He simply wanted their freedom to secure his escape. Once the passengers were gone, the hijacker made his demands known. He wanted $200,000 in brand new $40 bills, $100,000 in $1,000 bills, and another $100,000 in $20s. He also insisted on having 4 parachutes delivered to the aircraft. It was clear he had planned this meticulously in advance. After what seemed like hours of waiting, the authorities finally agreed to the hijacker's terms. They loaded the money onto the plane, and then those 4 parachutes? Only one person was allowed to exit the plane and collect the package. But it wasn't a hostage. It was the hijacker himself. How did he get the money without anyone seeing him? Well, one of the passengers had a briefcase that looked identical to the one that he used to board the plane. So the hijacker switched briefcases. It was a clever trick. The plane then took off again, this time heading south towards Mexico. It was now late at night. Storms raged overhead as the plane cut through the dark clouds. The hijacker kept the pilots informed of their altitude. If they were too high or too low, he would know. When the plane had reached about 10,000 feet, the hijacker did something unexpected. He instructed the pilots to lower the rear stairs. Those same stairs that had been used to deliver his briefcase and collect his parachutes. This was not part of the deal, but the pilots had no choice. They did as they were told. And as the plane continued its journey through the storm, the hijacker stood up, adjusted his dark suit and his dark glasses. He strapped one of those parachutes to his body, and then he jumped into the darkness. He fell from 10,000 feet above the ground. All the while, the rain poured down on him. He was carrying $200,000 and a parachute. Then he vanished into the darkness. At first, the pilots thought that they should try to land the plane as soon as possible. But then they noticed something strange. The hijacker had left behind 2 of those parachutes. He hadn't needed them. He had only jumped with 1. This meant that they could still try to catch him. They flew back over Seattle and dropped those 2 parachutes out of the plane. But by the time that they hit the ground, they had already been blown away by the wind. In fact, they were never found. Meanwhile, the one that the hijacker jumped with was also never found. Over the years, many people came forward claiming that they had spotted the missing chute somewhere, but none of the reports were ever confirmed. To this day, no one knows where the hijacker landed. We don't know if he died or lived. We do. I'd know if he used that money or spent the rest of his life hiding from the authorities. All we know is that he jumped out of a plane, falling 10,000 feet into the dark, and no one has ever seen him again. The authorities started one of the biggest manhunts in FBI history. They called in every available agent and they combed through countless leads. They even offered a $5,000 reward for any information that could help bring the hijacker to justice. But the case went nowhere. There was no sign of the hijacker anywhere. It was as if he had simply vanished into thin air. Then, in 1980, a young boy was playing on the beach near the Columbia River. He was building sandcastles when he noticed something strange buried in the sand. It was a small cardboard envelope containing several bundles of cash. The boy picked it up, brushed the sand off, and opened the envelope. Inside was $5,800 in brand new bills. The same bills that had been hijacked 4 years earlier. This was the first piece of solid evidence that the FBI had to go on. It seemed as though the hijacker had hidden some of the money in Washington state, and then jumped into the water when he realized that he was being followed. But it wasn't that simple. The FBI would later discover that the rest of the money was missing. It seemed as though whoever had hijacked the plane had somehow managed to escape with all of the cash except for that one small amount. But where did he go? Did he die in that jump? Was he a trained military parachutist who pulled off the perfect escape? Or did he simply vanish into a new life, never to be identified? For many years, the FBI pursued several promising leads. They interviewed dozens of people who claimed to have seen the hijacker after he jumped from the plane. Some said that they saw him on a beach in California. Others that they saw him buying a plane ticket to Europe. But none of the leads panned out. The hijacker seemed to have disappeared into nothing in 1991. The FBI even released composite sketches of what they believed that the hijacker might look like as an elderly man. But these failed to turn up any new information. The case went cold, and it seemed as though it would never be solved. After 45 years, in 2016, the FBI officially closed the case. But the legend of D.B. Cooper lives on. It's a story that has captured the imagination of people around the world. Some believe that it was the perfect crime, while others believe that it was the greatest disappearance in American history. What do you think happened to D.B. Cooper? Was it the perfect crime or the greatest disappearance in American history? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching. Bye!